Welcome back. Today we're exploring a really powerful idea from Florence Scovel Shinn's classic, The Game of Life and How to Play It. We're talking about perfect self-expression and what it means to find that unique role you were truly born to play. You know that feeling, right? Life can sometimes feel like a stage play where you were just handed a script that doesn't quite fit. You're going through the motions, saying the lines, but there's this little nagging sense that something's off, like the real you is just waiting in the wings. Well, that feeling, it's a clue, and it's pointing towards something much, much deeper.
The big idea we're unpacking today is that this feeling of being miscast isn't something to just brush off. According to Shinn's work, it's a sign that you've strayed from your true path. She argues that every single one of us has a specific place we are meant to fill and something totally unique that only we are meant to do.
So, how do we find this unique place? Shinn calls it the divine design. Now, let's just park the mystical language for a second and think about this in a really practical way. Think of it as your personal blueprint for a fulfilled, authentic life. This brings us to the key concept, perfect self-expression. And it's not about being flawless or perfect. It's about being fully and completely you. It's that unique purpose or talent or role that is perfectly designed for you and only you. The source material describes it as this perfect idea that's already there, just waiting for us to recognize that and say, yep, that's mine. And this is so important. This whole journey isn't about grinding and hustling to become some new and improved person. It's more like an excavation project. It's about chipping away all the roles you've been playing for other people and all the expectations you've picked up along the way to uncover the authentic self that's been there the whole time. Shinn actually places this idea inside what she calls the square of life. She says that for a life to feel truly whole and happy, perfect self-expression is just as fundamental as health, wealth, and love. So it's not some fluffy add-on. It's a cornerstone of a well-lived life. Okay, so if we all have this blueprint, why do so many of us feel kind of lost? Well, it turns out there are some very common roadblocks that tend to steer us off our authentic path. The sources point to three big ones. First up, comparison. Looking at someone else's life and thinking, I should have that. Then there's imitation, where you're actively trying to copy someone else's path, which pretty much always leads to feeling like a fraud. But the biggest blocker, the one that does the most damage, is the third one, fear. Shinn is crystal clear about this. Fear is the main thing standing between you and your unique genius. It's the fear of failure, the fear of what people will think, the fear of the unknown. That's what convinces us to just bury our talents and play it safe instead of stepping into the role we were actually designed for. So how can you tell if you're on the right track? Well, the key is learning to spot the difference between authentic expression and your ego. True expression feels almost effortless, like play. You get lost in it. It's guided by your gut, that inner nudge. The ego, on the other hand, is all about performance. It feels like hard labor, it's desperate for approval from others, and it usually comes with a heavy dose of anxiety and force. Okay, so this all sounds good in theory, right? But what does it actually look like in our day-to-day lives? How do we start putting this blueprint into practice? Well, the first and maybe most obvious place is your work. When you're aligned with your design, your job doesn't feel like this draining chore. Shinn says it becomes so absorbing and interesting that it actually feels more like play. It's not that you don't work hard, but the effort energizes you instead of wiping you out. Next up, relationships. Perfect self-expression means you stop performing for people and you just start showing up as your real self. And when you do that, you kind of give everyone else permission to do the same, and your connections can totally transform. You start attracting people who vibe with who you really are, not the character you've been playing. And finally, it shows up in your daily habits. Just ask yourself, are your routines supporting your authentic nature, or are they a constant battle against it? When you start aligning those small daily actions with your true self, you build momentum. And pretty soon, living authentically becomes your default, not something you have to constantly try to do. So, if you're feeling a bit disconnected from that blueprint, how do you start to find your way back? The source material gives us a really simple but super powerful practice to help you reconnect with your own inner guidance. It's a simple 3-step process. First, just find a moment of quiet away from all the noise and distractions. Second, you just ask for a definite lead. You're not trying to force an answer or picture a specific outcome. You're really just opening the door for guidance. And then third, you just listen.
You pay attention to the subtle nudges, the little hunches, those flashes of inspiration that bubble up. That nudge, that's what Shinn calls intuition. She describes it as a kind of spiritual faculty, an inner compass that just points the way. It doesn't always give you the full, logical, step-by-step map. It just gives you the next right move. That gut feeling that guides you in the right direction, even when your brain can't explain why.
Okay, let's bring it all together with a quick recap of the key ideas to help you on your journey forward. So what do we need to remember? First, you have a unique purpose, a divine design. Second, watch out for those 3 big blockers: fear, imitation, and comparison. Third, pay attention to the feeling. Authentic expression feels like play. And finally, you can always reconnect to your path. Just get quiet, ask for a lead, and listen to your intuition.
Ultimately, the message here is so empowering. The sources suggest that real freedom doesn't come from having a million options, but from the deep fulfillment that comes from finally stepping into the role you were born to play and sharing your unique blueprint with the world. So, I'll leave you with this question. Based on everything we've talked about, what's one small action you can take today that feels truly, authentically you? Thanks so much for joining me. Be sure to check out the next one in the series, and you can find the whole playlist right here.